Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from sub-Saharan Africa. I am in a canvas-filled cantina-looking type of tent, whatever. I don't know what the hell you want to call it. And I'm in the mournful state because I just realized that for all the older 80s kids like myself, the absolute pinnacle of modern-day television, the game show host, Wink Martindale at 91 had passed away. And of course, RDV, you have no idea probably who that is, but he did a bunch of shows, but he was known for...
Which game shows?
Tic-Tac-Doe, the one with the dragon on it. The dude brought the juice every time with people coming in or no nonsense. He's right up there with Gene Rayburn, and of course, from The Price is Right, everybody loves that guy, Bob Barker, right? Yeah, well, so, and Gene Barry, nobody can forget Gene Barry, the original host, I think, of Jeopardy and some others. That's like the Mount Rushmore when it comes to game show hosts. And sadly, it reminded me that there's no such thing as game shows anymore. And what does this have to do with our tonight's movie, The Ghost in the Darkness? Because typically I would be talking about all the loose lines that are feral here just west of Orlando, Florida, in the Pinos Palace in the Extreme Studios. I got to tell you, this won the poll for our Val Kilmer retrospective here, too. We had a couple movies up there. And, of course, it has the bonus of having Michael Douglas in here and what you and I like, animatronics and real creatures for the most part here, too. I'd forgotten this movie a little bit. I know it was based off a somewhat true story. After rewatching it after probably 20, 30 years here, I go, man, they could have went a little bit harder in the philosophical argument. I think that would have made it almost a borderline horror movie. Here, I thought they played a little bit thin towards the end. Not bad, certainly good by 90s action movies. But I tell you, when I saw it in the theater, what I really, really liked about it was that sense of, we saw the lines early on. We see the fear of it. We see how men and relationships crumble with structure and all that, too. So there's a lot of parallels of real life stuff in here that most people probably don't give two shits about. But I kind of liked it. I thought Val Kilmer did a great job in it. Michael Douglas, I'm looking at you. I really loved, the Indiana Jones ripoff movies you made. We've covered them here on the Extreme Movie Show. You're just okay in this because it looked like you stepped out of that to collect a paycheck. That being said, RDV, what's your initial take?
I disagree. I thought they both did a wonderful job in here. Obviously, Val Kilmer is a star. He was in here the longest, the most part. Calling in the expert to come in, Michael Douglas, who gives some philosophical stuff. It's about how he very much gave up his life to basically live with Africa as he get tired of the corrupt white man. Yeah, there's a little bit of neopolitics, or what do you call it in here?
Well, some of that's necessary for the setting, right?
The setting,
for the colonial times and the imperial.
Colonial time coming in there.
Yeah.
They're in I think it's the Savo area, which is in Kenya of Africa, and they have Val Kilmer come in. He's hired to go over there and build a bridge across this river, where it turns out there's actually some lions start hunting the people there. Based on this true story, and which many believe these two male lions would normally don't hunt in packs together like this or go after humans.
Correct.
Is because they believe there's cattle disease at the time. This is the 1890s. And it drove them to basically go after humans because and normally they suspected that they'd normally feed on humans that died, whatever the carcasses, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But because they're building by this river might have been where they hunt mostly, and because the prey comes to them, why not go after them? This led to legends or superstitions among the people that were working there, the locals. Mm-hmm. Calling them the devil, the demons. Sometimes they were wizards, come back to life, hunt on people, and all these different things going on. And it was interesting because I haven't watched this movie in about 20 years. Feels like it's been that long.
Mm-hmm.
Since it was 96.
Yep.
This is when it's probably the last time I watched it was like 96, 97, and I still love it. I still get jump scares from the freaking lions because lions are freaking freaky, man. Lions are huge.
I remember, I've got an okay sound system. I don't have a great one or anything like that, but I remember in the theater I was really impressed by the sound of the lions and all that too.
Roaring in the distance. Yeah.
The one thing this movie I think does a great job in is like with the camera shots, like looking out into like the wheat fields or something.
And you see the eyes.
Yeah, and you think you're seeing something or whatever, and just that respect for the awesome power that nature has. This is not like, to me, a man versus nature type of story. That's not a disaster type film. It's not when the animals attack the way you and I have talked about some of them before. It really is about relationships, and the obvious ones there are the technological versus the non-technological. There in Africa, you've got your competitions between countries in there. You got the really asshole guy that's sponsoring him for it as the corporate guy versus him as the a middle-class guy trying to rise up in station in life.
The Germans and the Russians were also competing to put railroads across Africa and colonize it.
From a manufacturing work perspective, there's almost an interesting dynamic between the different cultures that were there trying to improve their lot in life, making a living, and how he would have to negotiate getting them along, because that's the one thing true when you run a project is it's never getting the project done. It's dealing with the people that do the work that make the project happen, and you're there to kind of figure that out. So they deal with that somehow, about this group not liking that group, and they're having to do that. That's why I loved early on the whole idea of him hunting and killing that first kill and proving himself to the group, because he's a hunter and all that. He's a worldly guy, and he looked a lot older and more mature in this role too, physically, I thought.
Yeah, and taking the lions out of the whole entire thing, I want to talk about, because I forgot about this, the workers they had coming in. They have the Pakistani. You have the Indians, pretty much from.
There's different kinds. The two
from
different
India,
kinds.
so you get the Muslims, and you got the other, and they all hate each other. And there's one guy he's in charge of basically being mediator between all of them, getting all the work together. So they're all building the railroad and building on the bridge, and then they said, when these lines start attacking, the first one, it pulls the guy out of his camp, drags him, and it's scary because you're like, oh my gosh, you feel it. It's in the middle of the night. You see this guy is being dragged through the tall weeds. He's screaming, trying to fight back. This is the guy who was built up, saying that he killed a lion with his bare hands before.
Yeah,
and it caught him off guard. So you're like, so that shook everybody in the camp too, because they're like, oh my gosh. And then they said when they came across his body, the lion just ripped his flesh off.
Yeah, like he was toying with him. In the natural state, that doesn't happen. There's no excessive use of energy like for sport. And here, this is really brutal.
So they made the lions a lot bigger in this movie compared to what the lions were in the actual. You can see them over in the field museum over in Chicago right now, still in Illinois.
Okay.
And these lions in the Zavaro area do not have manes because it's too hot, and also because, as we saw in the movie, when they built the fence around the thorn bushes around the camp, all the thickets up rips their hair out, so they can't get through it. So it was interesting to see the real lions compared to these other lions. These lions will look a lot bigger, and I gotta say, looking at these lions, I was going through IMDb. I actually got it pulled up right here. Let me pull it up. This guy's going. Oh, hold on, wrong one. I love how the science behind it. Remember we talked about Anaconda, how there's robotic and stuff.
Yeah.
How they did stuff in Jurassic Park. It did some stuff too. And we look at here in the Ghost in the Darkness. First of all, there's the designing it, planning it out, working with look at the lions, the little jaw stuff. But then we get here. Here's their robotic body and stuff they're building for it. As we keep going and looking at, and then they put the skin over it. These are, I guess, it's very interesting how they do these create these props. It's on
Stan Winston is the man. I mean, you go look at his catalog just on what he's done with the animatronics and all that. I mean, he's no stranger to that. So they nailed it with getting Stan on there. That's an A+ hire for this crew. Absolutely, without.
Like I said, we always say props over CG.
Absolutely, 100%.
We don't need CGI.
Totally. Yeah. And then you mix in some of the filming, like you say, of the two real ones that they had. I think when they filmed it, it's a nice blend.
I don't know if they had any two real ones when they filmed it.
Well, some of the scenes to me look like they either stock footage or, depending on how they did it, they had some real ones. What now?
You mean when the lion was walking?
Yes, those kinds of shots, right?
Yeah, those might have been.
Do that. But I mean, look how good that looks right there.
Yeah, and those are the eyes you see when it comes. Yeah, so that's just poster, but yeah, I whenever I saw this stuff, I was just like, man, that's pretty great creative. So I like that they were able to build animatronics and make it more realistic, because they can put the blood on there too and make it move. And we know lions, they're man eaters. They're huge mouth jaws. You can fit your whole head in there. You see the circus all the time. They said so they had in this movie there's 3 of them. He obviously you mentioned that Val Kilmer kills the first one. You know, he camps on the tree and then shoots it. And then okay, so they figure well they everybody's all happy now. Everyone's like, okay, he killed it, restored confidence, whatever. They give him the claws and the necklace. He did wonderful for protection. The guy gives them, and then not even a couple of days later, well, another person gets picked off, and they're like, what the heck? So they as they're chasing it through the town, all of a sudden there and there's another lion on the roof that jumps down and kills one of the guys. And this is the lion that had been basically stalking Val Kilmer while he was reading his letter from his wife, who is basically still back home. She's pregnant with his first son, the first child. So he had to wait 6 months or 8 months before she could even come over, you know. And it's just so now they have 2 lions. So they build the fences around the house, you know, with thicket like thorn stuff. And I love how he basically does ingenious, like he basically builds a trap, like you would have worked, but it takes our old railroad cart, you know, puts iron bars in it, puts 3 guys in there, and hey, I know you guys are criminals, gangsters, kind of targets them, you know, these are the Arabs, and he's like, you try, but you know, you can sit there, and when it comes in there, just shoot.
He was reaffirming in a positive way their skills.
Yes,
seriously,
yes. No, he was, you know, but. If that was done today, he's racist for that. And there's even I love what there's even a racist comment in here from one of the Arab guys.
Well, there's a few too. I mean,
he's like, white guy, because white guy can do anything. Your skin color. He's like, excuse me.
But here's the thing with a comment like that.
Yeah,
that was actually legitimate in terms of the writing, because they're talking about the difficulty of navigating the different groups and in there, and the guy makes it when he's walking away. So instead of responding to and getting to his face like an American would, he's a proper British guy. He goes out and proves himself by killing the lion. And this is the guy that's weak ass anyway.
Yeah, my point was that racism has been around for a long time, and just to think it's going to go away completely is nonsense. But it wasn't like this. By putting it in here was not racist. The dialogue, because it was accurate. Yes. It was accurate too with the time.
Yes,
you know, because here comes the white British guys coming in, ordering people to do their own stuff, you know, and they're so used to seeing the aristocrats, the ones who didn't do shit, like the guy who was sponsoring all this comes down, you know, and he's like, oh yeah, what do you mean? No, we've lost 40 men. He's like, oh nonsense, I'm gonna hire somebody else, and like he's like. And Val Kilmer kind of like sticks up for himself. I like about this, you know.
Yes.
And this guy doesn't. He said, "I don't do the job. I don't care about you. I care about what was he? He said is getting
I build bridges. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to say
no. He says I'll destroy your reputation. But what did he say? He cared more about the main guy. I think he cared more about getting some reward for being the first one or whatever. I think that's what it was, something like that.
Well, it was showing that he was operating on a completely different play field, and he seemed almost like this is one of the things about rewatching after a long period of time.
Fat cats, you know.
And without him and those purse strings he has an attachment to, whether it's government wise, whatever, doesn't matter. But that's when you're a country driving full steam ahead with capital and all that stuff, that's what's going to happen. And you know, there's even another throwaway comment here. I don't know if we want to call it racist, about the Indians, and I liked how they interwove some of these captions that are not just with the white guy walking away comment, but when he says, you know, something along the lines of, well, you're going to have to navigate these groups. We've got the Indians, both types. We've got the vegetarians and the other ones. So we have the cow, and they worship the cow, but the other groups want to eat the cow. And then you have the Africans, and they're going through what culturally they do. And it's not racist. It's not sexist, religious, or whatever. It's just pointing out that, you know what, you just don't have groups of people. It made it real, despite the fact we didn't deal with a lot of them as individuals, but we saw a lot of people working to remind you that this is a tricky thing. Not only does he have to navigate those relationships, he's also, and this sounds corny as hell, but that's kind of what the movie's about. He's having to get to negotiate the relationship between himself and what it means to kind of like be successful in the real world. And that doesn't just mean
Yeah.
being married and having the kid. It means completing this because it sets them up for life. So what's going to set you up for life? Well, resisting the temptation that the devil provides to you in the form of course, these two wolves here. And the wolves, you could argue too, one of the interesting things, and you mentioned at the beginning, which I thought was kind of interesting. I didn't think we'd go there. Wolves, I'm sorry, the lions. Well, because I was thinking of Wolfen with Albert Finney about how, New York City encroached upon their territory.
How they hunted packs. They're clever lions. They think.
Yeah, and as predators, you're normally not that smart as a predator. Honestly, you're smarter as a different type of animal. But the lions here, you could argue, they were fighting the encroachment not just of cultures and technology on there too, but now you've got weapons and guns, so it's like it's a little bit different.
What made this movie scary for how realistic it was, because based off a true story account of actual John Patterson was a real guy, and he said how he shot and killed one of the lions stuff, and a story of them. They found in the real life, they actually did find he found the cave where they said they had hundreds of skulls of a human stuff had been killing. That was towards the end, right? When he's on the last one. Yeah, in the movie here, but in the towards the end with Michael Douglas, they're tracking the lions. They go and they discover the cave, and they realize, and they're like, "Dear God, lions don't do this." There's like hundreds of like bodies in here, skeletal remains of humans in this cave. And in 1997, they followed up on researchers did on Patterson's book. They found the cave and verified it was they're like where the lions were and stuff. So these lions would basically go after the humans because the humans were were in their territory. It was easier prey than going after the gazelles and all stuff. And a lot of their normal prey, they said, they died off. So, but they did. I love that scene when you go in here when the guys walk into the cave and you see they have the flashlight or torches or whatever, and then you see the stacks of skull, and I'm thinking like, dear, and like that is just this just reinforces like these are not normal lions, and it also reinforces superstition, because I think it's called Zavo or Zavero, whatever it's called. The Zavero lions. Zavero means slaughter.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, the meaning behind that name, they call it slaughter. And later, they later on, like in 1991, researchers actually discovered another lion that was much bigger than this lion. It was about 10 feet long and weighed up to 400 pounds. So it was bigger than these lions that the guy had killed. They said if you go to the Field Museum, they have all three lions now. And like imagine like a lion 4 feet standing 4 feet tall, 10 feet long, and it has and like there's no way you're gonna like, I could take this lion. It weighs up to 400 to 600 pounds. Elks can get up to like 800 pounds.
There's definitely been a desensitization to nature and the power that it has, not just with
people think they can just take a lion
twisters and natural events, but animals as well. And you see it everywhere with people taking photos and stuff and paying to swim with dolphins and all this cutesy kind of stuff. It's here on the Extreme Movie Show, every time we switch TV shows to go from one, we review a James Bond film, and the Young 20th Professor Pixel. And one thing I think we had talked about a year or two back when we were doing Live and Let Die with Roger Moore, there's a scene in there where they have a crocodile farm and they throw him out there. It's the voodoo one. And so he's standing like on a straw and there's all this meat's there, and the guy leaves, and Roger Moore's standing around looking at all the crocodiles, and then he kind of sees them, and you see him kind of running across the back of each one. And I think that actually happened or whatever. And if you don't know crocodiles and what you can and can't do, you don't know it. So Florida Man stories are kind of true some way, but somehow just what this movie does, I think the best out of everything is it really respects the fear that you should get out of nature when you're not on your home turf. And the thing here is the other thing that makes it scary, to your point that you mentioned, the Cave of Skulls there, is that nature does a very good job of weeding out its weak. So if you have weak offspring, usually the parents murder them, or the mom does, or whatever, or they're left to die, right? Especially if they're diseased. And you know as well as I do with hunting and that kind of stuff, their populations can get out of control with regulations and stuff, and you have to cull
Well,
the herd a
that's
little bit here and
why
there. Here,
Kenya.
it's
Yeah.
so fucking scary that what the hell happened that these two lions were able to get away with this for so long, to get it not only a taste for human flesh, but to be smart about it, to drag it in the cave. That adds the element of horror into it, that, you know, just the people talking about them being representations of the devil. You're like, okay, that's just tribal talk. That's screw that.
Sure, but I mean, there's always a little bit of spiritual, like, added on, tales added on to what can be explained by science. I mean, sometimes it can't be explained. Like you could say, like, they could say that, oh, that's because they theorize, because, well, they're one like looking at one of the lion's teeth that was cracked, and so maybe their teeth, maybe it was easier for them to go after softer flesh and it wasn't go after their normal prey. There's all speculations. But they said that was not normal is two adult male lions working together and hunting, but there was no other pride. There was no
against the natural order.
There was no female, nothing and stuff. They weren't providing for anything. So like I said, I like how this movie starts off so happy. It's like he's on the train line. He's like, oh, look at the giraffes, and then look at this, he's naming all the animals.
It's great shots. It is. It looks beautiful. You really feel like you're there, right? I mean, it's awesome to watch.
They're running on the bench on the front of the train, and he's pointing out guys like, oh, I've been here for a year, and I don't know, and you're just naming here within 24 hours all the stuff I didn't know about Africa. He's like, it's been my dream. No, so I love Val Kilmer's performance in this. Michael Douglas just comes in as like he's the guy who got lost and all. He's like in Jumanji. He's like, I've been here years, boy. Let me show you what to do. And it's like he just comes in and he's like, we're gonna hunt the lions, and just like, he reminds me of Jurassic Park. Remember the guys hunting the raptors? And he's like, oh, smart girl. Oh shit. I think it was Huey Laurie or something, or Hugh Laurie or something. But I remember I was just like, so there's some similarities to that. I draw from other movies came around this time, Jurassic Park and stuff. And yeah, these guys, remember, it's the 1890s. They didn't really have much protection. The only thing I didn't understand is why they did not have guys standing guard in Africa. I mean, as far, or not Africa, but the capital. Like, you're in Africa, there's lions. Why would you not assume there's not lions? I always assume there's like something out there. Like, and like they finally
because
by the next week.
Scared of you. That's why.
So like after the two lion attacks, like, why do you wait to hand the guns out? You don't have guards out there,
No,
that's
like, an extra cost.
Honestly, a guy just standing around with a gun is better than and then because my thing is, like, remember, all four of those groups of people don't like each other, so wouldn't you want to have some kind of like guards there to keep the peace?
Again, under what rule? You're a foreign country working in a foreign country.
I understand.
There's groups of people, so maybe they won't let them do it. So it's hard to say. It really was the Wild West with that kind of stuff.
Well, I said, who under whose rule? Who does whose law? Because there is no government where they were. It was just a bunch of guys, out in the field, basically building a railroad, in the middle of nowhere, and it took like a day's travel just to get there where they were. Like I said, they could have handed out to other guys and actually had their own. Not, I'm not saying Marines or whatever or military. I'm just saying the people in the camp who don't know how to use a gun could be on guard. So, and I also want to point out the lions, though. Like, so their big thing is to draw out these two lions to take them out, because Michael Douglas is like, yeah, we're gonna build yourself a new hospital. This smells like reeks of blood. They're gonna target this next. So they kick him out into this new hospital. I love this area. I love it. Tremendous. So they take some blood, throws, they kill the animals. They're butchering them, and they're throwing meat chunks all over the shed, and they hide in there with two bulls. Him and Val Kilmer. And they're like, the lions come around, and the lion jumps
fires burning around it. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, nothing, because what happens is that the lions go after the new hospital because they're like,
switcheroo.
Well, no, I don't blame them. You're like, well, we can't get in this. I'm not going to work on this, so I'm going to go where the easy kill is.
Exactly.
Good.
That's the point where they leveled up to me, because they showed intelligence.
Dude, and what movies coming out around that time? You had Deep Sea Blue or Deep Blue Sea. the leveling up of the sharks and stuff, the dinosaurs. It's just like it just seems like there's a lot of movies like this in the '90s where it's like man versus animal, where man becomes the prey. Yeah. And I like that, and we need more of those movies. You know,
we talked a lot about like different types of things going on in the '80s with the patriotism and just different trends. There's definitely a trend in the '90s. There's a few notable ones. One of them going from the mid to late '90s to me would be more of the whole idea of the millennium and what was going to be going on too. And now with computers starting to get a lot more mainstream at home, plus the internet, people being able to go out and speed up their access to some information and everything too. You definitely had this idea that you could almost do anything in movies. So some of the CGI you see back there is shit. Some of it's okay, some of it's overused, right? So there's definitely weird when we go back to watch some of these things, right? Where you go, well, matte painting would have been great, but no, they gave us CGI and it looks like shit. Or in this case here, you got animatronics. They look fantastic. They look great. Doesn't look cheap to me at all. Still looks good. But yeah, definitely some of the stuff back there is a bit questionable with how they look, because at the time there was only so much processing power and what they could do, right? Now it's all 100% CGI in front of a green screen. It's embarrassing. You know, you're talking to a tennis ball literally, and then they fill in the person or everything else.
So the guy who plays Samuel in this, he's the main helper. He's like the main mediator between all the tribes. That actor, John Kani went on to become and star in the MCU. As T'Chaka, the Black Panther's father, in all the different movies. So he actually his career did go beyond this. He was in Coriolanus, and he was in Captain America: Civil War, Black Panther. You know, I was looking, I was like, because I was wondering, because like we got all these great supporting actors. I wonder where they go afterwards. You know, and you know, sometimes they that's their only movie, and then they're gone.
Speaking of supporting actors, I do want to mention that while I always enjoy Michael Douglas, I felt like he kind of just mailed it in here. It was fine for what he did. He's done this before. It's just like he stepped out of the Jewel of the Nile to me. It wasn't. I thought his character could have been presented a bit differently, because Michael Douglas almost seems like Michael Douglas in every movie to me, and that's not a knock. And he was fine. He was there as the elder statesman, the guy that's basically the father figure, rubbing off some knowledge to him or whatever like that. But the best thing about it here is you're like, okay, it's Michael fucking Douglas. So Michael Douglas is huge, especially at this time. And then what happens after the second act going into the third? They celebrate because they kill one, they got one more to get. And he wakes up, and this is right at the end of the movie. Val Kilmer wakes up, he has that really horrible dream of his wife getting mauled, which was fantastic. And he goes out. They follow these blood trails, and he's just completely eviscerated. You're like, fuck yeah, Michael Douglas got it. That was good stuff.
So yeah. Tom Wilkinson was the other actor here too. He was one of the major supporting actors. He's the one he played Beaumont. He was basically the one that was supporting, and he was the asshole. He was the one. There was a rich guy that was basically playing all the money, wanted the bridge done. He didn't care about the workers whatsoever. He went on to do.
He's done a lot.
Yeah, looking there to stuff. He is Duplicity. He's in John Adams, Batman Begins. He was Carmine Falcone.
Was he?
Yeah.
That's why. Okay, yes, because that I would recommend anybody is the Penguin. That actually was a good show.
He wasn't a Penguin. Batman Begins.
No, I'm talking the TV show. He's in that, isn't he? Or is he in the movie? Is that what you mean?
No, he's not in that. Not. I'm talking about the movie Batman Begins.
Oh, I thought they had the Falcones in Penguins.
Well, they do. Yeah, they do. But that was someone else, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah. My mistake.
Yeah, there's been like 3 different Carmine Falcones throughout the years.
Oh, I don't know.
He was in Ghost Protocol, Mission Possible. I was looking at stuff. He's been a lot of different.
He plays
Full Monty.
Yeah, an asshole, and he's good at it, right?
And just looking at he's been in a lot of movies. Exorcism, Emily Rose. Man.
Overall, what I would say about Ghost of Darkness is, to me, it's a fun watch. It takes its time. I love the fact that it's in Africa. Yeah. I love how you feel like you're there. It is a period piece.
He just died 2 years ago too.
You know, this is a movie where if you're going to say what's negative about it, you could argue that his character, for example, is pretty flat. It's one note. It serves its purpose. The wife is just sort of there with the kid. It serves its purpose. She does not dominate the film. right? So you
Emily
could
Mortimer.
argue that some of those things are just there to be there, and people don't like that. This is a movie that 80-90% of it is not the beginning and the end. It's really Val Kilmer dealing with people, watching him act. Like I mentioned to you before when we did our retrospective, I like him in the roles where he's a bit more serious and a bit more adult-like. And in here, I think you definitely get that. Would you agree?
Yeah. Dude, so 3 actors in this movie died. First it was Tom Wilkinson in 2023, then Bernard Hill a year later. He's when they played the doctor, and then Val Kilmer this year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That means Michael Douglas is next year.
I still say it's this year, end of this year.
Yeah, you never know, right?
He's isn't he wheelchair bound?
I think he's getting close to 90. Geez, I think he had a tongue cancer or something. Whatever. It's just.
But Bernard Hill was another big actor for one of the Lord of the Rings movies. He was Theoden. He was in Titanic. He was the captain. He was in the Scorpion Kit. Forever Young. He did the new reboot. But yeah. So
I don't call this an animal movie, though. Do you?
I'd say it's man versus nature.
Yeah, not necessarily man versus animal, man versus nature. Yeah,
but I would still say it is an animal movie.
Yeah, but it's not like Planet of the Apes or like.
No, that's science. Well, Planet of the Apes is science fiction.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. That is true. That's what I'm trying to say. This is really like a drama to me. It's a thriller.
It's a thriller.
It's not an action film.
It's a thriller. It's a thriller with bouts of action towards the end. I always love the cover too. I never noticed it before when you see the 2 lions on the cover.
Yep.
The bottom one and then the one where the Michael Douglas is heading out there. And I was like, oh, like that's so like clever. And a lot of people did not recognize that until they see it. Like, oh my gosh, that actually is 2 different lions. So, but this.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, like I said, this is always a movie that it's when brought up, a lot of people like it. Yeah, it's just not brought up a lot though.
It isn't, and that's why I didn't think it really win the poll in the voters. And there's a lot of votes on it. I think we were like 75, 80 votes on it. That's tremendous feedback. I really appreciate everybody voting for it. You'd mentioned before about the 80s and movies coming out. Let's not forget the 90s had a string of like comedies with Jim Carrey and that kind of stuff. So there was a certain amount of lightheartedness out there too.
Yeah.
So you didn't. More of the dramas that you have that were adult-like, were more of the spy FBI type things or like the serial killer stuff. So it was nice that something like this is out there because you're right. Other than Jurassic Park and a few others, and I'm sure they're there. We haven't really talked about the 90s much lately.
Was also 96 was also the year that started a lot of the action movies.
Yeah,
I think GoldenEye was 96, wasn't it?
GoldenEye was 95, I believe.
95.
Dante's Peak, what was it, 97, 98 or something?
Impossible was 96.
Yep. Yep.
So you're getting into a lot of the Jason Bourne was coming out a couple years later.
Your Clancy films were going on at this time.
Yep. So I mean, like, when people talk about 90s, it's like there's specific movies to talk about. Independence Day, some of the big blockbuster hits, but like, and then the rest of it's all drama.
Yeah.
And then movies like this like get falling between the cracks because everybody's like, oh, Mission Impossible, you had Independence Day, GoldenEye, and like in a Jurassic Park, but Ghost in the Darkness kind of falls in the cracks, for some reason. But like I said, I like this. I thought Michael Douglas was pretty well, and the fact that he got it in this movie was like a shocker, like because he was a big actor coming off the Jewel of the Nile and all those other movies. He had the Most Dangerous Game, the game.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
I'll never tell. he had all these movies he was going. He was and then you had the Mask of Zorro with his
love it.
So the late 90s, mid to late 90s was just blowing up with just awesome movies. That's why I said like I love doing 90s week or a month where we're just gonna do all 90s movies because they're so much fun to watch.
I think that you mentioned Zorro. I believe that was directed by Martin Campbell, who directed some. He was heavily involved in.
Sure, wasn't Robert Rodriguez? I think it's something else.
Yeah, I think you're thinking of Desperado.
Oh, okay.
Okay, which also had Antonio Banderas in it. But so the point I was going to make here is that there were still in the 90s, and again, we're going back 30 years. I hate to say that, right? But you still had a fair amount of directors at that time that knew how to direct what I'm going to call physical action, right? So now you don't have a lot of them that can really do it because of the CGI and the stunt
Well,
work. That's why everything looks the same. So
the
it's a
other
blessing that we have animatronics in here because we don't have a lot of animatronics today.
this is also done with the filming before streaming. They knew it was going to be in theaters, so they wanted to make it a big hit as best they can because they know that's the way movies were made for selling DVDs
Yep.
in theaters. Now, they can't really do it as much. They had to change the style when streaming came out. Streaming just took over everything. So it's streaming. Talk about video killed the radio star. Well, streaming killed the movie star because a lot of the movies today, you take away any woke policies or any other crap, nonsense, DEI stuff, and you just look at some of these movies and like, you could have good writing in these, but they still wouldn't be as impressive as some of these are done shot back then. The Michael Mann TV show was Thief or anything like that. The camera angles,
Yeah,
and the fact that everyone's comping everyone out, and when creativity stops, it becomes stagnant. And that's the biggest problem today with a lot of movies. The creativity is just gone. Everyone just copies and steals.
I mentioned something recently when we were talking about this with the retrospective for Val Kilmer recently, was that I've been working my way now through the Terrifier franchise, which is supposed to be this killer clown. And I remember a part of it was on one time a year or two ago. I'm like, oh, what the hell's going on? This looks stupid. This looks like dumb. Is this what they think scary? But I started from the beginning and watched one just for the hell of it, and then got on the second. I'm watching the third now, and it's kind of interesting because of the way we talk about movies here. We talk about what we like, don't like, if it works, whatever, and trends and stuff. The first movie was such a small, like, micro budget movie, but they intentionally wanted to film it like a John Carpenter film with a grainy look, exploitation movie with no buddies, super low budget, but they wanted to do all their gore and blood and guts stuff. They wanted to go back to the early 80s violent style where it was just disgusting, like Gale style or whatever. And then the second one, they did the same thing, but the second one actually, they did it, I thought, pretty good, and it was kind of long. I was surprised that they did it. Now, everything is not unique or at all to this. This is all derivative of everything you've seen before from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and it has the clown stuff in there or whatever, but they took something, just said, hey, let's try to make a movie because we're effects people. They were successful. Then they did a second one, and it did gangbusters. Now they got a third one. They might do a fourth, and I appreciate the fact that they do it, but it reminds me of something you just said about how the creativity dies. What they've done, they've been successful with. I give them all the credit in the world for it. I don't mind seeing something disgustingly brutal and violent, especially when it's practical effects. I don't want CGI violence and blood. I want the explosion, caps in the shirts, and just people falling down and stunt people and everything. It's embarrassing in a way that you don't have people that will still try to do it, because you might go, the Terrifier movies are derivative, they're classless, they're tasteless, nobody should see them, they're fun for like Halloween and stupid stuff, there's no redeeming thing to them. But if you're entertained, who gives a shit, right? This movie, no matter what we say about the writing or some of the cardboard characters or some things to it, it's still entertaining. You want to watch Val Kilmer on screen. He does a great job. And to your point, Michael Douglas does as well. He doesn't come in and dominate it. He makes the vehicle for Val to be successful, and he allows himself to die off. Some actors would not do that. I do respect for, have respect for Michael Douglas allowing that to happen, because telling you, when you're watching the movie, you go, oh, there's no way he's going to get it, right?
So did you like the fact that this director also is the one that did Blown Away and Judgment Night prior to this? And then
now, I've seen those movies, but it's been so long I couldn't really tell you some of the stuff.
No, Blown Away. What do you mean? It was like a year or two ago. We reviewed it on the channel.
Which one was that one?
Danny Boy. It's Jeff Bridges, bro.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I love a guilty pleasure movie. 1998. Then after this movie, he goes on to direct Lost in Space, the movie. So
maybe one day we'll do for a poll. We'll do movies about people that have bad faces.
This is also the guy. It's also the director of Predator 2.
Which I'll die alone on this mountain with Danny Glover. I don't mind it. A lot of people hate it, but I don't mind it. I'm just saying.
You'll die alone, sir. Because it's like he had Arnold
Martingale dying on that hill.
I saw that took place in Los Angeles, and I said, nope. This is where Predator went downhill and they decided, let's make a bunch of sequels that nobody wants. You know, yeah. But no,
If you
Ghost in
make
the
it cheap enough, it will make profit, no matter
you
who
build
sees it. Yeah.
you build it, they will come.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. A very good movie based on true life events. William Golden, I think, is the writer. And he basically does exaggerate a little bit, giving the lions some manes, makes them a little bigger than they were in real life. Adds 3 lions when there actually only, I believe there only was 2 lions. So very interesting. I gotta ask you one last thing.
Mm-hmm.
That first kill, did you think they were going to show the face, like the scarred up body, like for shock value?
I'm
I
glad
was
they
wondering.
did.
I was hoping they were showing it.
Well, it's like we talk about with nudity in films. It doesn't exist anymore. You can't look
It's
at
like,
somebody taking a shirt off or their boobs or their butt or anything like that. All it's and now when it happens, you're like, oh my God, they're doing it. Not because you haven't seen it, but because you're like, man, it's nice that where people can do it. It's not a big deal.
The only gore we saw was a guy get his throat cut with a lion. You know, when the lion jumped the roof, the one dude who was there gets his throat slashed out. But I was like, I was waiting for like something like, brains. I want Tarboy, you know. I was waiting for like the face to be like, and you see like, and this is like, I'm surprised they didn't do that at all, because like it was rated R.
They
could have done it
seriously and respectfully, and including the violence, which is a good thing to do.
No, but you usually could have turned this into an action movie where you
have
Val Kilmer being dragged by the lion and then shoots it.
But that's what the movie is, right? It really is a philosophical vibe till the end, which is the
ending though. I gotta say the ending. Val Kilmer's character just made me nervous, and not even nervous. I was just pissed off. So Val Kilmer's idea is like, well, Michael Douglas, you go on the tree. I'm gonna build myself a little sawhorse stand. I'm gonna, and it's
we call that a hunter stand.
And we're a hunter stand. Yeah, hunter stand, very flimsy. And then he's gonna put we're gonna put a baboon for protection. The lions don't like the shrill of the baboon. The time of the pulse. It's like, this is the goat from Jurassic Park. Like,
that's
and
bait.
It's a bait. Yeah. And what drove me nuts is because Val Kilmer's character kept switching. I'm like, you're gonna fall. Are you stupid?
I didn't like it either.
And then he falls.
I didn't like it. I'm not gonna lie.
He falls.
It was pretty weak.
We
did get line vision in there though for a brief moment, which I popped hard for.
Yeah. Predator vision. The night vision black, and just seeing it's like, and just like, oh, it looks like,
which is really wolf vision, but then it's
and
really
he keeps dropping guns.
Yeah.
He goes up on the bridge after this. They kill him and Michael Douglas saves them, shoots the lion, kills it. So then they all go back to the town and their little thing, and they're drinking and having a good time. He's like, yeah, fuck him, the fucking lion. Now he's down. Now it's the first time he's ever been alone. He doesn't have his brother with him, so he's gonna be scared. Blah blah. There we go. Let's get shit faced. Yeah. Who cares about the other lion?
Makes perfect sense. Exactly.
And that's good. That Val Kilmer goes, he has the nightmare about his wife being mauled and then he wakes up and they're like, oh, what happened to Michael Douglas? Well, he talked smack and got killed.
He collected his check and he's off the set.
I kept thinking it's like Jaws, the same guy. Yeah, I'm gonna kill this fucking shark and dies. It's like I said, it was kind of funny.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll put a new poll up here probably tonight for the movie for Sunday to review. We had technical difficulties on Sunday, so we moved it to tonight. Yeah. So I appreciate people showing up Sunday for that. I didn't have the ability to launch it, and it happens sometimes. So thanks for showing up. Again, this is all because you guys voted for this. Great turnout on the polls. Really appreciate seeing that. Picked up several subs there too. Really on.
Oh, wrong one. Go ahead. It's there. I can't hear you. Alrighty then. I am going to end it then. I can't hear Rob anymore. Say something, Rob? All right. Ending right now. I'll see you guys on... Now I can hear you something. I hear you something. But anyway.
Yeah, I can't hear you now. You're mute to me too. Something just happened.
I don't know, but... I know we did drop down to 1 viewers and we're back up to 4, so I don't know what that was about. But I want to just shout out to the people who actually did watch. who did watch this live. Shout out to MKF30, Desert Rose, Mark Waring. Thanks you for showing up. I think I saw Marani in the chat earlier too.
Yes.
Yep. And yeah, we'll see you guys on Sunday. Look for the poll later on tonight or tomorrow morning at the latest. And thank you for being here. And never pull an angle team. That's gross. Later.
You.